Hi and welcome back to the course. In this video we're going to be creating our GitHub account, and that's fairly simple. Just go to github.com and then press the sign up button or put in your details in here. Once that's done, you can sign into your account and then you can see your repositories there, which you won't have any in the beginning, but you'll get some in the future. So just put in your username and password and then you can sign in. And as you can see, I've got quite a lot of notifications and things going on here, but the most important parts are that you'll see your repositories here on the right. You'll see repositories you contribute to, but that you haven't created. And then you've got a feed of repositories and your collaborators. Let's just go to new repository at first, and we can create a new repository for testing things out. Test repository. You cannot create private repositories unless you pay or are a student. So unfortunately the repository is going to have to be public, but that's not a bad thing. If your repositories are public, it means other people can look at them and that can help with things like jobs and things like that. You can put a description as a test repository for the course. And then press create repository. Then you've got a quick setup to do. Now, you can do a bunch of things now that you've created your repository. You can download the repository, and that will initialize a new repository locally, or you can use this repository as a remote host. Since we've already created our repository locally, we're going to do the latter. And it tells you here exactly what to do. So push an existing repository from the command line. So what we're going to do is add this remote repository as a remote repository to our local repository. That sounded very confusing. The first thing to do, however, is to not follow this code exactly, because this code here requires some special permissions, SSH keys and things like that we're going to look at later. So what to do is select the HTTPS version. So press this button here and then copy that there. Then let's go over to the terminal and we are going to say git remote add origin and paste that code in there. Then press enter and that's your remote repository added. Now, if we want to push our code to that remote repository, our commits rather, we can do that. Just type git push. And what that'll do is it'll automatically see that origin exists and it will get your master branch with all the commits that the master branch has and it will push them and put them in the remote repository. Now, this may fail because the current branch master has no upstream branch. That means that because the remote repository has just been created, you need to make sure that the remote repository also has a branch called master in it. And because it doesn't right now, we need to run this code. And now we have to put in our username and password. So let's do that. My username is JSRVTR, and I'm going to type my password in here. And then we start pushing. So we've counted the objects, and then we've written them to the remote repository, and then it tells you kind of what you've written and where it's put it. And it also says that it's created a new branch on the remote repository that is tracking your local master branch with the same name. So it says branch master set up to track remote branch master from origin. Okay, so if we do git status now, it says that your branch is up to date with origin/master. Notice how it doesn't say origin/master is up to date with your branch, because the central repository now is the GitHub repository. And what that means is that if you work with other people and they also make changes, you can then download those changes from the remote repository. All you would have to do to download changes for the remote repository is to run git pull, and that would download any changes from the remote repository into your local repository. However, you have to be careful that nobody else has deleted any of the code that you wrote in the changes that you have locally. So we're going to talk about that a bit more in detail. But that's it for this video. Hopefully you learned something how to set these things up, and I'll see you in the very next one.